Hello, everybody. This is Bryan from Breaking Down Security. This week, you're going to hear part 2 of our interview with Noid. We did a lot of interesting discussions with him, and it went so well that we needed the second week. So for those of you who are just catching this now, part 1 was last week, so you can just go back and download that one. We're going to start leading in with the One of Us story. One of the slides he talked about was how he learned how to be one with his dev team. And one of the last topics we had was kind of personal to me. I do a lot of pen test writing for reports and stuff at my organization, Leviathan. And, we talked about, what makes a good report, how to write reports for all kinds of people, whether it be a manager that you're giving it to from an engagement for a customer, or, the technical people who might be fixing the bugs that an engagement person might find, or a pen tester might find in this case. So, we're going to go ahead and lead in with that. Before we go, though, Spectre Ops is looking for people to go to their classes. They're learning adversary tactics and red team operations training course in Tysons Corner, Virginia. It's currently $4,000 US, and it's from April 23rd to April 26th of this year, 2019. That doesn't include also airfare and hotel, so you're going to have to find your way to Tysons Corner, the Hyatt Regency. There's a link in the show notes, of course, to the class. If you'd like to go, you'll learn things like designing and deploying sophisticated, resilient, covert attack infrastructure, gaining initial access footholds on systems using client-side attacks in real-world scenarios, cutting-edge lateral movement methods to move through the enterprise, and a bunch of other cool things. So, if you're interested in hooking that up, you can. You've still got more than a month to sign up for it, and it looks like there might still be tickets. So knock yourselves out. They're also looking for blue team people. Mike P on our Slack channel, which we'll tell you about at the end of the show here on how to join it if you'd like. He said www.workshopcon.com/events. They're looking for blue team trainers. You can hang out with folks like, Spectre Ops and Landmaster as well there when you sign up for the blue team stuff. And workshopcon.com/events. And then you can, learn to be a blue team trainer, or actually give blue team training if you so choose. So that's pretty awesome. All right. So without further ado, we're going to get started with part 2 of our interview with Noid here. Hope you have a great week, and here we go. Okay, so I think we've gotten down to like the One of Us story. So wherein our hero finally starts to get it and begins to bridge the gap. Some of the things, some of the points or the lessons learned in this story, and you can tell us about the story, was that language makes all the difference in the world. And this is what got me on to the part about the reporting, which we'll talk about in a little while. But maybe you could fill us in on this discovery, this story that got you to these points.
Okay. So the team I'm working on, I get asked, the thing in question is, it was a pretty massive product, and it had never had any threat modeling done. Okay. So had never had any threat modeling done. And this particular product was made up of tons of little sub-products. So what I did is I sat there first in a kind of a complete panic going, this is overwhelming. I don't have nearly enough time or resources to be able to do this. But, how do you eat the elephant?
Right.
Cut it into small pieces and get at it.
Yep.
So I had one dev lead who I know had worked previously on a security product. And he was a nice guy. Mm-hmm. So I sat down with him and basically said, hey, could you walk me through visually diagramming how your service works, building that data flow diagram? And then we're going to talk about it from a security perspective. And he was sort of like, ooh, that'd be fun. Like, yeah, let's do that. And so we sat there and he diagrammed it. And the whole time he's diagramming, he'd stop and he'd erase things and go, wait, no, we were going to do it that way, but we didn't. And then, and we stopped doing it this way because we added this other thing, and we had to be able to break communication out into multiple channels. And then he stopped at one point and was like, get a picture of this. Right. He's like, I think this is probably the most accurate diagram of our service we've ever had. And then when we started doing the threat modeling side of it, like, talking about trust boundaries and It's like, all right, so what makes sure that, data from point A gets to point B and it's not fiddled with, that kind of thing. And I'm saying, okay, well, could you, do this over HTTPS rather than just regular HTTP?
Right.
You'd get non-repudiation, and it's like not talking about even the security value of it, but talking more about the integrity be there. And then at one point he stops and he looks at me and he says, man, I never knew threat modeling would generate so much feature work. And in my mind, I was like, what are you talking about feature work? Like, these are bugs you need to fix.
Right.
And all of a sudden it was like, oh crap. I have been approaching this entirely the wrong way my entire career.
Nice.
Devs look at things from bug fixing and feature development.
Mm-hmm.
And as a security person, every time I'd been bringing up stuff they needed to do, in my mind, it was implied it was feature development. But they saw it as bug fixing because in the dev world, security fixes are bug fixes. He saw the value here and went, oh, this is going to generate a ton of feature work. And it's like, oh, so I got to stop calling this security work. I got to start calling this feature work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sure enough, not only if you start calling it feature work, and of course, and now once you're talking about feature work, you can start talking about the drivers. Why are we building a feature? Because, you don't build features nobody wants. Well, unless you're certain software companies. But
yeah.
But you build features that come out of customer requests. You get features that, hey, I look at things like, say, Microsoft Office, how that's evolved over the years. And that's because people who use Office come back and say, this is really cool, but I'd really like it if when I'm giving my PowerPoint presentation, I had a timer on the screen so I know I'm on mark.
Sure.
And okay, that's a feature request. And so that's how these things evolve. And so once I started talking about security work from the perspective of feature development, we have existing features that need to be worked on to give them new functionality in order to be able to pick up new customers.
Right.
And we have new features that we need to build that will also help. Because the other thing, too, I also noticed is that, well, I care about things like confidentiality and integrity. Devs care about things like availability and performance.
Right.
These two things can kind of be almost used interchangeably, depending on the circumstance. So when devs are talking about stability, I'm thinking about integrity. When I'm talking about availability, they're thinking about performance.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, I'm now giving them ideas for like new perf counters, basically. Like, new metrics. New metrics to check the health of the thing that we're building. And the way I looked at it was almost this is the business driver for it. Customer X wants it, customer Y needs it. And here's the benefit, the product gets out of it. Here's the benefit the developers get out of it. And what does security get out of it? Don't worry about it. Purely any value I derive from this work is purely coincidental.
Yeah.
And that in turn helped start driving the conversation a lot better, because the other value I got out of it too is by having somebody on the development side of the house who had a name and had some, reputation behind him. He was able to go to his respective peers and say, man, I did this thing with Noid and it was really valuable and we got a lot of cool stuff out of it. So he's going to hit you up about it. And I totally recommend doing it.
Right.
And at which point, because some of the folks I worked with were either indifferent towards me, they were just busy. I did have some folks that I worked with, though, that were just flat out adversarial towards me. They didn't want me doing what I was doing. They didn't really want me poking around like the dark corners of the product.
Right.
Because it was going to make work.
I see.
But having somebody on their side say, no, I actually got value out of this. Okay, well, I'll give it a try. And holy crap, I got value out of this too. So that was where I suddenly realized that my language, in my mind, I'm not saying anything differently.
Right.
But yet it turns out when it comes to the words coming out of my mouth and how they were being received, it radically changed how I was expressing myself to people, and it totally changed the response I got.
So maybe we need a new CIA triad that has the other words on it, the translated words for development and product teams.
Possibly.
Performance, integrity is stability.
Yeah, stability, availability. Yeah.
What's confidentiality then? What is the other bit that they talk about or worry about?
I don't know. If only we had a dev lead on this call.
Yeah, do you know one?
Yeah.
So the lessons learned, you said language makes all the difference, never, the way you speak is like, if you only know English like most Americans and you go over to France, speaking louder in English to somebody who only speaks French is not going to help you in it. So look for the helpers. So let's say we're not lucky enough to have somebody like the person you found in your organization. It's going to take a little bit longer maybe to get them onto your side to poke at them like that, or maybe grease the wheels with some donuts, or maybe take them to lunch or something. Would that be helpful at all?
Well, first off, yes, you'd be amazed at how much showing up with donuts.
Oh, I know.
Oh yeah, no, actually it's funny too, because actually just a couple of weeks ago, another team at my company came over and gave my team donuts.
Nice.
They gave my team, the IT team, and the tech ops team donuts because of all the work we've been putting in for them.
Nice.
And as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I'll march directly into hell for those people right now because they gave me donuts.
So, they better be top pot donuts or something legit, not like
they were good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were top pot. They were top pot donuts. But yeah, But yeah, so part of it's that. Something else too is doing some of the work yourself.
Okay.
So in addition to all this work I'm doing, I'm also managing the development of security features. Mm-hmm. And I had gone over the product spec for one of these security features, and I built a data flow diagram.
Nice.
And then during one of my little weekly Scrum meetings where I sit down with my devs, I showed it to him.
Okay.
And I remember one of them too, and he immediately stopped and was like, "What is this?" He's like, "What is this? It doesn't make sense.
This is forbidden knowledge.
This is your thing.
Yeah.
You wrote this.
Oh.
You wrote this. This is just a visual representation of the thing that you wrote." And once I explained it to him, sort of the steps 1 through 11, and showed him what had happened, he was sort of like well, that's interesting.
Nice.
Still somewhat dismissive of it, but it was still kind of so in addition to, buttering people up with donuts and lunch and things like that, but also sometimes you got to just buckle down and do it yourself and then show the value.
Right.
And I mean, I'll be blunt. That's how I've gone by through most of my career is when I can't get traction, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
And then pop up and go, "Hey guys, check this thing out."
Right.
And, "Oh, wow, that's really neat. How'd you do that? Where'd you do that?"
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, you can do it too."
Right.
And I can show you how. I can work with you on it. I'm certainly not going to tell you to RTFM and then walk out of the room.
Yeah.
But so part of it is it also shows a little bit of commitment on your part. Sort of one of the things I've picked up that's security, not even in the equation here, but just having worked in a lot of software development organizations with the devs and the PMs, is the devs frequently see the PMs as not doing anything of value, except for when you are.
Right.
So when you are willing to put that kind of effort in to deliver something like that, like, "Hey, I threat modeled our service." It sort of shows this, "Oh, well, I take back all those things I said about you.
Nice.
You're not worthless after all." So,
yeah.
There's definitely some value there too. Because a lot of times too, people are willing to say, because it's easy to stand back and issue edicts. It's easy to stand back and just, get up on your soapbox and tell everybody else what to do. Mm-hmm. But when you show you're willing to eat your own dog food,
right,
that really gets people's attention, because it's like, okay, this dude clearly cares about this a lot.
Right.
And now that he's done it, I see what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like, we should do that. There's value here.
Yep. So Very cool. So when you on the last slide here, when you wrapped it all up, you said engage early and often. Does it have to be? So when we were talking about communication, open communication, trying to some of it's cultivating relationships. So you kind of need to if you're introverted, you kind of need to step out of your shell a little bit and go and talk to people, get out of your cubes for once in a while, turn on the lights, that kind of thing.
Yep.
How often did you talk with these teams to help build this relationship after a while? Because obviously there had to be some team building there.
Yeah. So in my case, since I was in the team, we talked weekly.
Oh, okay.
Weekly and sometimes daily because they were literally down the hall from me.
Right.
But in terms of where I've had to work in other organizations where I've been back in a centralized organization and having to work with remote teams or work with teams that I'm telling them to do things, but I'm not in their org, like a weekly basis.
Okay.
Like we're going to meet up this week. Because, like, for example, like when I was back when I was at Microsoft, I worked in the MSRC before I left.
Oh, yeah.
And I was handling me and another guy were handling all the IE cases.
Okay.
And there's a lot of IE cases because there's a lot of versions of IE.
Right.
So we would go meet with those cats once a week. And we would sit down with them and say, okay, here's the queue. Here's what's new from last time. Here's sort of what we think is the priority for fixing things. What do you think about it? But it's that you always want them to know who you are, and you want them to know that you're just as busy as they are, and that you're also respectful of their time.
Right.
So we'd make the meetings short. A personal pet peeve of mine are people that set meetings deliberately long with the expectation of, I'll just go ahead and give everybody 30 minutes. I'll give everybody 30 minutes back.
Right.
It's like, wow, thanks, jerk. Like, how about you could have just made a 30-minute meeting in the first place? Yeah. It just that tells me that doesn't tell me you're a magnanimous person. That tells me you can't manage your time. So I try to be really concise. Like, I'm going to set up a meeting with these devs. I'm going to include an agenda in the meeting invite. I'm going to set it for exactly how long I think it's like. We're going to 30-minute meeting, 30-minute meeting to go over the bugs that are in the queue. There's 4 new ones from last week. One of them's really nasty. Right. That probably is going to be a non-negotiable, but the other 3 are up for negotiation. And you show up, you sit down with them, some pleasantries, and then you get to work, and then you get them back out doing their thing, and you get back to your thing. And that really flows well. Right. It really flows well because, none of us like meetings. No. And the closer you are to touching computers, the more meetings disrupt your flow. The more they just disrupt your life and the thing that you're effectively getting usually paid a lot of money for. Yep. And so by kind of doing it that way, you keep that cadence up, you keep that that sort of friendship and that rapport up. But the other thing too is another point I wanted to make, but I'm getting tired. So, but along those lines too, you get that rapport there. You're respectful of their time, and then I can't remember what I was going to say next.
That's okay.
If it comes back to me, I'll bring it up.
No problem. No problem. So, so the last bit was, let's see. Don't talk about security, talk about feature development. We talked about that. Threat modeling your developers. You and Dr. Cowan, my carpool buddy, you and Crispin need to, get together and talk about the threat modeling he's doing. He doesn't do trust boundaries so much. And one of the talk he gave at SeaSec East was about how we do threat modeling in our organization. But a lot of companies are starting to see value in that before we do engagements because we can prioritize what's the more important thing to test versus just testing all the things in the environment.
And threat modeling in software development is huge too. Mm-hmm. Like that was one of the things I think a lot of my developers I've done this with over the years have taken away from it is one, you have to make it fun. Right. You can't make it a complete slog. But one of the nice things about threat modeling is when you're visually looking at the thing you're going to build, that's when you make the realization that like, oh, hey, my post office has no door. Right. and it's like the best time to figure that out. And then, it's like, I always tell people that, the best time to fix a bug is in alpha before you write anything.
Right.
And the next best time to fix it is before it goes into production. And the worst possible time to fix a bug is after it's been in prod for 10 years and it's a load bearing bug at this point and has dependencies on it.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. I've been seeing some like Linux kernel bugs. They said there was one in there from it's 15 years old. It affected all of like 2.6 to up to the latest version. And it was a use after free bug. I don't know if they found the bug 15 years ago and just never fixed it. But yeah, bugs like that sit in there because people don't check for that kind of stuff.
That happens sometimes. There was remember the whole SYN flood thing in the 90s.
Yep.
I mean, it was in the RFC.
Right. Right. Oh, right.
It's
bugs in the
It was
docs.
one of those like, oh, we found the bug. It's like, what? You read the RFC?
Yep.
And just finally understood it?
Yep.
So it's that stuff. And there was an SSH bug that popped up recently.
Yep.
It was the same thing. It wasn't a terribly nasty critical bug, but it was in a piece of code that had been in SSH for ever.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I seem to remember that one too. Yeah, I'll have to find a link to that one. So I know you're getting tired. I have one other topic I'd like to discuss because I do a lot of report writing. I probably should do a lot of report writing, but at Leviathan, we're the PMs grease the wheels. We, work with the relationship. We do the status meetings. We do the executive summary and such. And I could be better at writing reports. Some of our testers are way better at it than I am. But taking the whole idea of the language and where things go with this, when we put findings out, we call them bugs, or we call them findings, not necessarily bugs. But what I'm trying to figure out is how we can better communicate our reporting when we're doing things like readouts to kind of resonate with both developers and management. Because the idea is the executive summary is supposed to be for the quote unquote managers or senior folk. And then we have components that drill down and talk about specifics and be more technical. But, often we find ourselves, and I find myself, because I come from a more technical background, writing more technical to the executives. And my question was, is there ways of communicating risk to both the developers and the managers in the, using somewhat the same language? Or should we call the bugs not bugs or not findings? We call them, here's a feature you guys should implement, which would be, HTTP, or, you must have seen a few pen test reports in your time. And I mean, what is your opinion of pen test reports?
So my opinion of most pen test reports is that they're garbage, but they're usually written to one extreme or the other.
Right.
So unfortunately, I have yet to find any really good language that appeases everybody.
So what's the one extreme or the other? What are the two extremes?
They're either hyper technical, the sort of stuff that like any of the three of us would probably look at and go, oh, okay, I get it.
Right.
I understand the value here. Or they're so high level that if I'm a business person, I might be sitting there going, hey, okay, you've reached out, you've touched my heart. I understand that this is a critical, this is a big issue we need to get fixed.
Right.
But there's not enough meat there that if I took that report and handed it off to my dev lead and said, go fix this, the dev lead's going to sit there and go,
are you kidding me?
Yeah. I don't know what to fix. According to this report says bad things can happen on the network.
Right.
Are you telling me to go prevent bad things from happening on the network? So that's the thing. I find that, they either overwhelm you with details or there's not enough substance to them.
Okay.
So every once in a while, you get a really good one, though. You get a really good one. If I could, just a shout out to a coal fire. I actually like the reports.
I mean, okay. Well, okay. So what is a happy medium type report for you? One that would satisfy the manager folks, but also get with, be technical enough. What kind of things would you like to see in reports that you get from them? And feel free to, talk up the coal fire thing, I guess. We're always trying to improve our reports at Leviathan. We've gone through and done things like test evaluations and, things like that. And no, it's fine. They're cool with me doing my podcast on the side. So,
yeah.
But if when you get reports, the good ones, what do they look like? Well, I mean, what are kind of things that you're looking for in a proper pen test report?
Well, for me, being a technical person, one of the biggest thing I'm looking for in a report, repro steps.
Right.
If you haven't given me clear repro steps, then you have given me a useless report. And that's the thing. I've seen reports where basically it's, hey man, we popped your domain controller, we did this, we did that. Look at how freaking awesome we are.
Right.
And you're like, okay, I didn't hire you guys to be a circus sideshow.
Right.
I hired you guys to show me where my risk is. And so I can I know where to focus my efforts. And so those types of like, look at how badass I am reports don't do anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
What I do like though are reports that say, hey, we found a cross-site scripting vulnerability on this particular product in this particular area. And here is not only screenshots of the cross-site scripting vulnerability happening,
mm-hmm.
but here's the repro steps. Because what's going to happen is, for example, I see something like that and I go, well, we got to fix that. I'm going to go to my developers. And the first thing my developers are going to ask me is, can you repro it?
Right.
Can I repro it? Because one of the things they're going to do is after they fix it, they're going to validate the fix. If they don't know how it was exploited in the first place, they're not going to know how to validate the fix. So being able to provide that information down is huge for me. But then again, I'm also not, the business guy. I'm not the big money guy. I want my report to be technical.
Right.
So would the executives of my company get the same value out of the report? Probably not.
Yeah.
When you're talking to the much higher level non-technical people, what you need to be doing is you need to be making sure you're talking in terms of risk.
Sure.
You're talking in terms of risk and you're talking in terms of, and not technical risk.
You're right.
At the end of the day, the CEO of the company doesn't give a damn that SMBv1 is still on the network.
Right.
They might not even know what that is.
Right.
Odds are I'm gonna go out and say they probably don't know what that is.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean explain to them what it is, because they're not going to. So first they're going to go from not knowing what it is to not caring what it is. But if you express things in terms of risk of that, the current network architecture as it stands is very fragile and could be easily brought down, through almost potentially accidental behavior, let alone malicious behavior.
Yeah.
Resulting in outages and SLA violations.
Right.
Now you got their attention because what they hear there is, oh, so if I don't fix this, it might cost me money.
Right.
Right. Okay. Profit loss.
Yeah.
Right. And
that's the thing. It's the, depending on where they're at in the org structure, I've been in plenty of organizations before where downtime is bad.
Right.
Downtime is downtime's never good, but I've been in organizations where it's like, okay, so I just got promoted to like super Uber director guy, and 48 hours into the gig, we had like a 2-hour outage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm done.
Yeah. Busted that SLA. Big
because
monies.
even though I had nothing to do with it, I'm the accountable one. So yeah, you have you need to be able to express things in terms that they translates to, finding out like one of the things back when I used to be a consultant, one of the things I'd always ask the executive types I'd meet on jobs is, what keeps you up at night?
Right. Right.
What keeps you up at night? Like what, don't worry about what I'm concerned about. What are you concerned about? Because they might be the same thing. I'm just going to talk to you about it using the words that you care for and understand. Because I see a lot of technical people try to describe risk to non-technical people, and they do it by being highly technical. And when it's not being understood, they fall back to being even more. They take the approach of being in France
Right.
not speaking French. So I'm going to speak slower and louder.
Right.
and at the end of the day, they're just going to keep shaking their heads going, man, this guy really wants to express something to me.
Yeah. Something must be really important.
Agitated by it, but I don't know what it is.
Great. Now he's flinging monkey poo. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So that's it. So yeah, when you're talking to leadership, expressing things in terms of, contract violations, SLA violations, financial impact.
Right.
Like one of the things I liked when PCI came out, and they had like these ridiculous up to $10,000 per bit of PII that gets disclosed. Yeah. And then you explain to a room full of high level people that, and if blank were to happen, 40,000 bits of PII would be exposed. And I'm not so good at math, but my calculator here tells me at $10,000 a pop, and you watch people in the room get real quiet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The thing is, you just haven't seen a Leviathan one yet. So, if you want to, reach out to us, we'll do a pen test for you. We won't mind coming out and hanging out and doing pen tests for you. So,
Frank's a good friend. He's a solid human being.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, we'll take your money and we'll give you a good drubbing. We'll knock you up and down, left and right, make it hurt. So anyway.
And actually, we actually might need to talk about that a little bit later.
I would not hate on that. I get money when people come and it's new business. So yeah, I wouldn't hate on that at all. No.
Well, I like in your last phrase or last sentence in your presentation, if you can avoid even using the word security. I think that's a good summary of what we talked about.
Yeah, that got me too. It was like, wow. Okay. So it's like, it's like the buzzword you're not supposed to say, or, like you get a shock. And
treat it like a game.
Yeah. You
treat it like a game, but you'd be amazed. It works.
100% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah, 100% of the time it works every time. But yeah, no, it definitely works, because there are people too. Because there's conditioning.
Right.
The history between security people and software developers is deep.
Oh yeah, and it goes back. It's contentious.
Right. And it's contentious at times, and obviously, you try to be a good human being, try to better the world around you. Try to, whenever you go somewhere, try to leave it in a better condition than you found it.
Yep.
But also understand that the person who may have been there before you may have just straight up just F the place up.
Right.
Scorched earth.
Yeah. Scorched earth.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah. And sometimes, because I've rolled into organizations before where it's like, why are these people so mad at me? Yep. I just got here.
Right.
And it's like, oh, because the guy you replaced was just god awful.
Yeah.
And it sucks, because it's not fair that you have to rebuild those damaged relationships because you didn't damage them.
Yeah.
But life ain't fair.
Yep. Well, with the whole, DevOps and those things, that was the Elysian fields for developers. Is like, oh, I can go do anything and enjoy everything. And then it's like, we're the no department. We're the ones who are going to put manacles on them. So, security folks have got to learn to be flexible. Compliance folks can't wield their hammer anymore like they should if they want to, play with the developers and the DevOps and the management folks. So, we talked about this with Liz Rice a couple weeks ago about getting, security into the DevOps area. And it's like, one, we gotta learn to be flexible. We've got to help them understand that. Now, the feature stuff, if I'd have heard this when we were talking to her, I'm almost certain she would have agreed with us on the fact that, we can't treat security like security. We have to treat it as feature enhancement in this case.
Yeah, because it is a feature.
It is.
It is a feature. It increases stability of the product. It increases the customer base of the product. It has all the same things to it that any other feature would.
Right on.
But as far as the security being the no department thing too, something else is like, I still run into security people that they look at themselves as the no department. They kind of pride themselves on it.
Yeah.
And when you find those people, just call them out.
Yep.
I mean, just tell them, like, look, man, that doesn't work. It's never worked. Stop it.
Yeah.
Because when you're viewed as the no department, no one will ever want to work with you. Why would you want to?
Yep. You're a non-starter.
Yeah, let's go, because that was a bit of career advice I got at one point. was that basically be solutions focused.
Yep.
Nobody wants to, basically, you're not going to go anywhere if you're the person who's calling out the problem. And you might be calling out the problem more articulately than anybody else in the room. You might have a better understanding of the scope and the depth of the problem. But there is a whole class of manager out there that'll just be like, man, that Noid guy, nothing but problems.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Whereas if you instead say, you kind of focus on the sort of the, not really the problem, but rather you focus on the solution. Mm-hmm. Be solutions oriented, to sound like a business guy for a second.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you be that solutions oriented person. And especially if you can do it with a sort of positive spin.
Right.
Like I had a boss at one point, I would stomp into his office pissed off every once in a while. And I'd just be like, this is screwed up and that's screwed up and blah, blah, blah. And he'd stop and go, leave my office now. Wow. And come back in and restate everything you just said, but in a positive way. Well, I don't even know how. Well, then go sit in the hallway for a few minutes. And sure enough, I would come back and I'd be like, okay, we have an opportunity for us to be. And I tell you, I hated him for it, but damned if it didn't work.
Oh, God. Yeah, that would make complete sense. Coming in with a positive instead of a negative. Yeah. You tend to get more done.
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, even when your negativity is spot on and accurate, there's a lot of people that are like, that person's always so negative.
Right.
And then sure enough, yeah, you start focusing like, oh, you're the positive solutions oriented guy.
That's nice.
Even while you're telling them that it's all basically like, we're all going to hell.
Yep.
But I'm doing it in a positive solutions oriented manner. And you'd be amazed how much traction that gets you.
That's fantastic. Mr. Betcher, do you have any other thoughts or questions? I want to let Mr. Noid go because he's getting a little tie-tie. Yeah. He's a little sleepy. And he needs to go to bed.
There's a lot of great tidbits in here.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to listen to it again and get all of them. And again, there's a lot of manager tools references here. Mm-hmm. And manager tools, if you're not a manager, that's okay. It's not strictly for managers. All that stuff they talk about is really valuable to all employees.
Yep. We
is it called the Manager Tools Podcast?
Yep. It's been going on for 12 years, 13 years. Yeah, something like that. It's very big. We put a link to the 3 powers, the 3 types of power and one to rule them all in the show notes as well. So, go listen to that. I listen to that. It's one of my regular non-Infosec podcasts that I listen to. So, I listen to it every Monday morning and when I'm on the treadmill at the gym. So, really, really excellent stuff. If you're out there and, it'll help you kind of understand, not us, the royal use, but if you're out there and you're, not a manager yet, it might help you understand where your manager's coming from too. So, cool. All right, Mr. Noid, how would people get a hold of you if they wanted to maybe have you for more podcast appearances or, speaking engagements or whatever? Are you going to be speaking anywhere soon?
Am I? I don't know. No, I don't think I am. Right.
Sorry. Are you going to be speaking anywhere soon? Question mark.
I am.
There you go.
I am speaking soon.
Yay.
I'm speaking at the NCC Group Open Forum.
Oh, that's right. That's next week.
And I don't think it's actually been announced yet.
Okay.
But it's cool for me to talk about it, but
yeah,
it is next.
The 12th.
Yeah, it is the 12th in Fremont.
Yep.
So if you're outside of the Seattle area, you're going to be SOL.
Yeah, they don't record those. So,
but I'm going to be giving basically an abbreviated version of my B-sides talk.
Nice.
They had an empty slot they needed to fill up.
Yep.
And they basically said, "Could you do it?" I said, "Sure." And then they said it's 30 minutes long, and I'm like, "Well, my talk's an hour."
Yep.
But hell, we'll make it work.
Yep. I think they're at Tableau up in Fremont area.
Yes.
So
yes, they're at Tableau.
Yeah. I'm on that list, and
okay.
Yeah, I know Miss Crowell over there, who's one of the senior managers at NCC. She's a great lady. She's actually not running it. She used to run it and then gave it to somebody else, but she still helps out when she can. But yeah, really, really great quarterly open forum that NCC Group puts out. Plus, they put out a nice spread for dinner. It's really good.
Nice.
If you're in the Seattle area. Hook
I
it up.
haven't been to one in a while, but they're usually a lot of fun. I went and last one of those I went to was a TLS 1.3.
TLS 1.3. I was at that one too.
That worked out great because literally the following weekend I spoke at DC 206 about TLS 1.2.
Right.
And ended up getting Joe to come along and speak about TLS 1.3 in a much more authoritative manner than I could have.
Oh, that's badass. Yeah, Joe was on the steering committee for that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, it was also nice. He kept me honest while I was giving my talk. I'd periodically just look at him and he'd kind of nod. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not going into the weeds yet.
Nice.
But yeah, as far as getting a hold of me goes, the best way to do it is I'm on Twitter.
Right.
At _ Noid_.
Right.
Or you can email me at Noid23, Noid23 @gmail.com.
Very cool. Noid23 @gmail.com. Yep. And so if you're in the Seattle area and the downtown Seattle area or Fremont area, that's a really nice place. I think parking, I think, was at a premium the last time we were there, but if you can
Fremont.
It's
parking's always at a premium.
You're either dodging bikes or whatever, like bicycles or whatever. So,
scooters now.
Yeah. I mean, Fremont area, they're really weird about their bicycle laws and stuff up there. So, it's really weird.
And zoned parking, so watch where you park too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to get Miss Berlin because, she's got a lot going on. She's, heading up the mental health hackers group. You can find her at, Hacker? Oh, God, I hate this. She's Info Sister on Twitter. You can find her INFOSYSTIR. Hackers Mental Health is her nonprofit. She's running that, and you can find that at Hackers Health on Twitter. She will come to your convention or conference and do a village, and it's a nice chill area you can go to if you're interested in doing that.
She is truly doing the Lord's work too.
Yes, she is, and we're very proud of her for all that she's doing. So, her and Megan Roddy, who's also one of our Slack moderators. So, speaking of our Slack, we have a very active Slack community. We just, like I said, we have JB, who was promoted to moderator because it's been far too long, and he's been doing the European and Asia book club, and he should have been a moderator for a while. So did that today, gave him access to our secret moderator channel and such. And we have a social contract. You can join us by emailing bds.podcast@gmail.com. Or hitting our Twitter, which is the podcast Twitter at Brakesec, BRAKESEC. And you can follow me on Twitter at Bryan Brake, BRYANBRAKE. Mr. Betcher, you got a lot going on too, sir. How would people find you if they wanted to talk about the LogMD stuff?
Yeah, you just go to log-md.com.
Yep.
Log-md. Don't forget the dash.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll get some... never mind.
Is it like whitehouse.com? Is it what That's an old joke, kids.
Well, I'd like to say though, if you do go buy your developers donuts or whoever, don't eat any between the pickup and the drop off, right? Because then you'll show up with 4 donuts and they'll be like, "Oh, thanks, great. There's 10 of us, and you bring us 4 donuts."
Yeah, I had some. Sorry.
So don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. Buy 13 donuts and then eat one for yourself and then say you got a dozen. There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
So you're making an appearance. You're going to be B-Sides Austin at the end of the month, along with Ms. Berlin's going to be at that one as well, I think. Doing her.
I think Megan's going to be there. I'm not sure.
Very cool.
This is her home base. So
yep.
We'll see.
Nice.
Yeah. And the classes are cheap. I don't know if they're sold out yet, but it's like $100.
Okay. Awesome.
Not bad.
Cool. Before we go, we have a store. If you want to go buy a t-shirt for the Breaking Down Security logo, you can definitely go do that, or get one with Miss Berlin's face on it, which is very weird. But it's still very cool. I'm going to probably buy a pink one here in the next few weeks. And thank you to our patrons, people who help support the podcast by donating some money, helps pay for hosting, pays for the time that we're doing this. Also, we're looking into adding some possible transcription services. We've gotten a couple of emails from people who are saying they want to get transcriptions of us saying a lot. So honestly, actually, it was a gentleman by the name of Willie, I think said he had hearing difficulties. So he wanted to know if we had a transcription of the podcast. And I feel really bad because I'm like, I don't know how to reply to him and say, we're just a little mom and pop shop here. So we're looking at transcription services, maybe something like Mechanical Turk, or there was one called otter.ai that we're looking at to maybe kind of make it better for people to hear these things. I
actually suffer from degenerative hearing loss. I'm slowly going deaf myself.
I have tinnitus from the Navy.
Yeah, well, same here. Yeah. It's permanent and ongoing, and just it's like I feel for them.
Yep.
And hopefully transcriptions will be a thing at some point.
Yeah, gods, I hope so. I mean, other than the uhs and ahs and ums about 800 times during the podcast, I apologize for that. But yeah, so we're trying to look into that. If we can make it work, we will do our utmost to make the podcast as available as possible to everybody. So it may end up that we have to hire somebody who'll do it for us. So that may be another thing, which means we'll need more Patreon money, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in getting full transcripts, we may make that possible if we can get another maybe 20 or 30 people, $20-$30 a month. So, but we do appreciate the tips. We call them tips because you're helping to support the podcast and helping us get this out. And so for Ms. Berlin, who's not here sadly, and she's going to be kicking herself because this was a really awesome podcast. And Mr. Betcher, this is Breaking Down Security from the world headquarters here in Seattle. Have a great week. Be nice to one another, please. Take care of yourselves because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Internet people.